Welcome to another Explainer, everyone. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating intersection of corporate profit, digital marketplaces, and public safety. If you're currently grinding away for the UPSC ethics paper, or honestly, if you're just a focused learner who loves dissecting real-world corporate dilemmas, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to deconstruct a highly relevant ethics case study, literally line by line. We'll be building a comprehensive model answer using the core concepts of ethical philosophy. All right, let's jump right in.
16,970. That is the exact number of unlicensed walkie-talkies the Central Consumer Protection Authority, or CCPA, found being sold across major e-commerce platforms during a massive enforcement action in January 2026. Think about that for a second. Almost 17,000 devices sold without mandatory licenses, completely missing proper frequency information and lacking equipment type approval. This wasn't just some minor oversight, right? It was a massive, systemic failure across multiple digital marketplaces.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the trigger, ethical dilemmas, a case study scenario, a stakeholder analysis, evaluating options, and finally, reforms.
Let's start with Section 1, the trigger, national security versus retail.
So, what's the hidden danger here? Well, these weren't just cheap kids' toys. These unlicensed walkie-talkies were actually operating on restricted UHF frequency bands. And you know who uses those bands? Police, emergency services, national security apparatuses. By flooding the retail market with these devices, these platforms were inadvertently posing a severe threat to national security. It's like handing out the keys to a secure communication network. And what makes it even worse is that many of these products were falsely marketed to everyday consumers as 100% legal or license-free.
The CCPA definitely did not let this slide. In this real-world enforcement action, they dropped some heavy financial penalties. Major platforms, we're talking Amazon, Flipkart, Meesho, and Meta's Facebook Marketplace, were hit with fines of 10 lakh rupees each. Smaller platforms were fined 1 lakh rupees each. This actually sets the stage beautifully for our discussion today. It proves that regulatory lag, waiting until roughly 17,000 illegal listings pile up before acting, carries real legal and financial consequences for platforms that claim they just provide the marketplace.
Moving on to Section 2, core ethical dilemmas and the philosophy of the platform.
To really nail this analysis, we need to pack our toolkit with 3 core concepts. First up, due diligence ethics. Platforms love to argue they're just neutral intermediaries, but when a product literally threatens national security, is that excuse ethically sufficient? Absolutely not. There's a moral duty to actively check risky products. Second, information asymmetry. When platforms or sellers hide the fact that a license is legally required, they're abusing information asymmetry. This directly violates a consumer's right to informed consent. And third, proactive regulation. This asks the big question: should a company act to prevent harm before a regulator formally forces them to do so?
Which brings us to Section 3, the case study scenario. Step into the dilemma.
I want you to just pause and think about this for a second. What would you do if public safety violently clashed with festive season profits? It's super easy to say, I choose safety from the outside, but when you are deep inside the corporate machine, the pressures are unbelievably intense. Okay, let's role play. You're Kavita Menon. You're the head of trust and safety at a massive online marketplace. Your team has just uncovered that thousands of these restricted frequency walkie-talkies are being sold illegally right on your platform. These listings are pulling in crores of rupees in commission for your company every single month. You draft an urgent report, hit send to senior management, and their response? Kavita, look, it's peak festive season. Taking these down will take a massive bite out of our revenue. Besides, the regulator hasn't sent us a formal notice yet, so technically we're safe. Just do nothing.
That takes us to Section 4, stakeholder analysis, mapping the impact.
Look, decisions like this don't happen in a vacuum. We have to identify exactly who takes a hit here. First, there's Kavita, torn right down the middle between loyalty to her employer and her ethical duty to public safety. Then there's management, who are so hyper-focused on short-term festive revenue that they're totally blind to long-term legal and reputational risks. You've got the consumers, who have a fundamental right to safe, informed purchases, walking around entirely unaware they're buying illegal tech. You have the national security apparatus, facing severe risks if those restricted frequencies are jammed up. And finally, the regulator, the CCPA, whose whole mandate is proactive enforcement. Every single option Kavita chooses is going to help some of these stakeholders and hurt others.
Let's dive into Section 5,
Evaluating the options. Anchoring decisions in philosophy.
Here is Kavita's first option. She just follows management's directive, sit back, wait for a formal notice from the regulator before taking a single step. Now, on paper, to a corporate lawyer, this might feel technically safe, but ethically speaking, it harbors a fatal flaw.
And this is a brilliant illustration of utilitarianism in action. John Stuart Mill famously argued for the greatest good for the greatest number. If Kavita just waits, she is actively allowing dangerous products to stay live, risking a massive public safety or security incident. Putting the entire public at risk just so the company can pocket a few extra cores in commission, that completely shatters Mill's principle. The lack of a formal regulatory notice absolutely does not grant you moral permission to endanger society. So option 1, we're throwing that out.
Let's look at option 2. Kavita decides to go rogue. Quietly, without telling management a thing, she uses her back-end access to initiate a technical process and just scrubs the listings herself. Her intentions? Clearly good. She wants to protect the public. But is this actually the right way to go about it?
To analyze this one, we've got to turn to Immanuel Kant. Kantian ethics require our actions to be universalizable. Basically ask yourself, would it be okay if everyone acted this way? The answer here is a hard no. Making secret, unilateral decisions completely destroys institutional discipline. It entirely breaks the chain of accountability. If every manager just secretly did what they personally felt was right, without documenting it or debating it, the entire corporate structure would just collapse into chaos. So despite her good intentions, option 2 is philosophically flawed.
Which brings us to option 3. Kavita puts together a crystal-clear, documented risk assessment for management, detailing the legal, reputational, and security threats. She proposes partial immediate action, like, hey, let's take down the absolute highest risk items first to balance the shock to the system. And crucially, if management still refuses, she documents the decision and escalates it to a higher authority, like the board of directors.
This is the optimal choice, and it relies on two absolute heavyweights of philosophy. First, Aristotle's concept of the golden mean, the desirable middle path between two extremes. Option 3 is that perfect middle ground. It represents courage, avoiding both the cowardice of remaining silent in option 1 and the rashness of unilateral secret action in option 2. Secondly, we apply Mahatma Gandhi's principle of the purity of means. Gandhi taught us that wrong means cannot justify right ends. Earning short-term corporate profits by ignoring glaring safety risks is fundamentally unjust. Option 3 prioritizes transparency, documentation, and a graduated response, ensuring the right means are used. Kavita for sure has to choose option 3.
Finally, Section 6, Reforms and Conclusion. Systemic Solutions.
We can't just fix this once and walk away. We need systemic, corporate, and regulatory reforms. Step 1, e-commerce platforms must mandate AI automated compliance checks. Literally, the moment a seller tries to list a walkie-talkie, the system should automatically demand the required license uploads. No license, no listing. Step 2, platforms have to publish regular self-audits and compliance certificates publicly, so they aren't hiding behind information asymmetry. Step 3, at the regulatory level, the government needs a rapid response mechanism specifically for national security items, so we aren't waiting around for months while 17,000 illegal items are sold. And finally, Step 4, companies must grant independent decision-making power to their trust and safety teams. They need to be able to pull the plug on dangerous items without facing crushing commercial pressure from the sales side.
And that wraps up our explainer. But before you go, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought, a little homework. In 150 words, what do you think should be the ethical responsibility of companies in balancing profits and public safety in digital marketplaces? But here's the catch. You must apply a thinker's theory to justify your answer. Whether it's Kant, Mill, Aristotle, or Gandhi, use the exact tools we discussed today to formulate your stance. The digital world is evolving at lightning speed, and it's really up to us to ensure our ethics keep pace. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and keep learning.